Hey guys, this is very likely to be a profoundly shitty video on account of the fact that I have been sort of out of it. Ever since I have been medicated, my depressions have lost a certain sexiness. They have lost a certain luster. They're just not as dramatic as they used to be. Like before I would be like completely out of it, shuffling around kind of like a zombie, whereas now I'm just kind of a zombie light. I just lay around in here. It's not like I can't go to the store or go to work. In fact, I go to work and I go to the store, and I bought myself some Popeye's chicken the other day for $5, and it was pretty good. It was pretty good. There are things I can do, but a certain spark, a certain magic is gone. The kind of a shitty magic that kind of propels the overall, like the swirling toilet action of this horrible channel into further existence. And right now, I'm just, I was working on one video in a kind of a standard style, and I just didn't have it in me to continue. I've recorded a bit of it last week, and I was planning on making the great push forward today, but I failed. I failed to generate the proper momentum, to generate the proper mental spark to take it forward, and yet I said I must make a video, and so this is why you're watching this shit right now if you still are. And in fact, this is also to try out filming on my iPhone. And what's even more horrible is not only the attempt to film on my new iPhone, but also using the clearly inferior selfie cam because my videos are so long, and I like to kind of watch them as they're filmed. Fuck it, So this is what I'm testing out today by my bed, where I have been wasting my life again. Just fucking watched Forensic Files on Netflix this whole day. I think the last one I watched is this guy who shot a lady who had a store framing pictures, and I guess he tried to rob her before, and now she was about to testify against him, and this motherfucker came in there and shot her and run away, and he recorded his whole alibi by going to the lake and just kind of peddling in the lake and saying I'm fucking fishing here, and just kind of pretending to fish over there in the lake. And that was supposed to be his alibi. This was back in the day with those shitty regular like VHS cameras.
My main concern is what's going to happen to mommy and all you kids.
He's accounting for almost everything he did that day, which in itself began to strike me as kind of odd that he has these receipts, and the day seemed too perfect as far as use the word alibi.
And he faked the date and everything, and these motherfuckers caught him because they like got this fucking astronomer, an astrophysicist or whatever, to calculate the sun using him as a fucking sun fucking clock. This motherfucker was, over there in the lake. They had to fucking reenact a lot of angles to see this shit, and they figured out he was lying. He just fucking ran away from the lake and killed her, and then went back to it and resuming fucking filming his alibi. It was just complete bullshit. Why am I even talking about this shit? It was so fucking dumb. He was caught with some fucking shit like that. Motherfucker.
Next, using an artist's model, a light bulb, and a protractor, Dr. Boyle calculated the sun's azimuth, or direction, based on the shadows. The model represented Kevin Dowling. The light bulb, the sun. Dr. Boyle adjusted the light to produce the same shadows that were in the video.
All right, my friends. Well, so you know what kind of a video this is. This has already been going on for like fucking 4 minutes. Let's leap into it. What I'm gonna do right now is answer some of those questions from my treasured patrons. And that's going to be the video. I'm just going to answer these questions sitting here on my bed. So that's what's up. Let's make it happen.
Dowling was back in his boat on the lake sometime around 2 p.m. When he reset the time on his video camera to 11:24, he never realized that he was a human sundial. His videotape told the story of deceit, not innocence.
I would like to kick his ass. He has no remorse at all. Then you wonder how sick this man really is.
It's ironic, of course, we often talk about criminals hiding in the shadows, don't we? In this case, the shadows were actually revealing.
Patron Vesna asked me about this article about Jordan Peterson. It's titled, "I was Jordan Peterson's strongest supporter. Now I think he's dangerous," and what I thought about this article. So it is my misfortune at this point. I have been milking the algorithm for Jordan Peterson for so long that I have actually knew about this article before she mentioned it here. And this article is by some professor at the University of Toronto who was a big advocate of inviting Peterson into the faculty. He talked to whatever the board is there, the faculty board, to get Peterson on. He was his biggest advocate, he says. And over time, he has noticed Peterson going progressively more and more insane. And, he has come to regret his decision. So, well, for one thing, it's a good article. If you're interested in reading about Jordan Peterson, it's an article worth checking out. I guess I'll link to it in the description. I've posted it on my Facebook page before. It's an interesting article. I don't believe that Peterson is dangerous. He is, for the most part, like an anti-SJW with some self-help tips, with a self-help aspect to it, like a deep and meta self-help guru aspect of it, which I don't think is dangerous. What's dangerous about him is his hatred for the academia and his desire for kind of almost like a McCarthyite purge. But it doesn't seem like this is politically feasible at the moment. And if this were politically feasible in Canada to purge universities of cultural Marxists, in that context, Jordan Peterson could be dangerous. I don't really think that there is such a possibility in Canada right now. I don't know. I could be fucking wrong. But that's the only... Aside from that, he's just like your regular anti-SJW and not even the worst one of that kind of a sorry category. But the interesting question for me is whether he should be a professor at all. Should Jordan Peterson be allowed to teach? That is to say, he waves his arms continuously, and the subject he teaches, presumably psychology, is already barely a fucking science. You can hate on IQ or have whatever opinion you have on IQ tests, but that's almost like one of the few solid aspects of psychology, because IQ tests do have a predictive capacity. But aside from that, there really isn't much there to the science of psychology. Psychiatry is more linear. You identify a cluster of mental illnesses that interfere with a person's ability to live a normal life, and then you just throw different chemical compounds at it to see what sticks as far as kind of alleviating the symptoms. It's flawed, but there is more of kind of, well, this shit works for psychosis or whatever. Unfortunately, so it's already barely a science, psychology, and maybe not even a science at all. And here's fucking Peterson with his archetypes and his lobsters and all this shit and strange advice about relationships, about how you should, fucking beat down their ego, beat them into submission, and then you can have a normal kind of argument about how every fucking dinner is a war zone. And you have to go on an excavation to find out who molested who 3 generations ago so you can fucking eat some beef together, that kind of shit. He's just making the whole thing worse. And he's bringing up the kind of most discredited, universally discredited aspects of psychology, like depth psychology. So if you were a student of Peterson, would you ever hear from Peterson himself that the ideas of Jung or Freud or whoever have been totally discredited and lack any scientific credibility whatsoever, even in this kind of shitty science of psychology. So what kind of a professor is he? Should he be allowed to teach? Well, I am I'm for free speech and I don't really rejoice in any censorship, but I do think there should be a warning. Like, I realize that no university would ever put some sort of a warning on a curriculum that this professor rambles and lives in his own world. Like, this is not going to happen, but in an ideal world, this would be what would happen. When I was a student at the Columbus State Community College, in fact in Columbus, Ohio, one of my professors was Bob Fitrakis. And Bob Fitrakis was basically a big time leftist, and the kind of and he just would talk about leftist politics throughout his whole courses, and he was funny, at least to me, and well, relative to the standards of community college instructors, and would just talk about his own political career. He was like a third party candidate from the Green Party for the governor of Ohio when I was a student. He talked about that shit, about his different adventures and shit, and that would take up like 60% of the class. Now, I took every possible class with him because I found it entertaining, but on the other hand, much like psychology, political science is also kind of a somewhat of a bullshit discipline. And him kind of rambling on about his leftist politics, like especially if I wasn't on the left myself, I mean, this would be profoundly annoying. But it was entertaining to take that class, and I still remember it. And I guess like some people are enthralled with Peterson. And so if there was some sort of a warning label attached to this, that this is in many ways just a rambling class and you should kind of detach it from your sense of normalcy for what this actual discipline should be, then yeah, fucking A, go with Peterson. And I mean, fucking watch his shit and what he comes up with next, and his different sweaters he wears and different hipster outfits. I mean, I guess there's something to that, but that would be my ideal solution in that sense. But yeah, as far as like teaching the little science there is in psychology, or based on everything that I've seen, I mean, in that sense, I do think he is a disaster as a college instructor. Hey, my friends, here's a few questions from Danilo, patron Danilo. He's an important person. I think he's like a $5 patron, though I'm not sure. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Well, anyway, who cares, alright? It's about the substance of the questions and the fact that he's giving me any amount of money whatsoever. So, what are your thoughts on the alt-right's antipathy toward modern art, and the correlation with the same going on in Nazi Germany? Well, here are my thoughts on this. Okay, well, here's what's going on. If you're on the alt-right or on that far right, there is a kind of a linear narrative you have. A linear narrative. Politics is about narratives. Always. Politics are always about narratives. That's how they win legitimacy one way or another. Even if that legitimacy comes with the desert of an authoritarian state, you need to have a linear narrative. And modern art is not linear. That's its essence. It's not linear. It doesn't give you a linear narrative. It's like, look at this fucking toilet with Madonna's face in it. What does it mean to you, man? What is it? Well, fuck it. I want to get rid of that shit as well. Over time, I have come to dislike modern art. Modern art to me is sort of like, almost has become sort of like irony. That is to say, it's something that divides you, a designation, like there was some sort of a study of if there was a car crash and they asked different kinds of people if they would find beauty in it. And of course, different fucking hipsters and college professors said that they would, and everybody else predictably said that they wouldn't. Now, I could find a fucking beauty in a car crash, especially if it was like one of those motherfuckers who like fucking drove around in their Mini Cooper and took like turning around like a fucking oil tanker. You know how motherfuckers like take forever to go on the light and to make a fucking turn, and as a result of it you just get stuck there, even though if everybody was going at normal speed, everybody would have gone through. So if one of those ended up in a car crash, it would in fact be a beautiful work of art, especially if I could see their head rolling out of the vehicle. But overall, no, there is a sense like you look at some piece of art and you have to, the conceptual question you're asking is like, how can I justify my fanciness by finding some worth to this piece of shit? Like, I know what I'm saying right now is quite plebeian, and my views are by no means absolute. It's nice to have, like, the freedom of modern art, and that's the only good aspect of it. That there is this freedom that I can do fucking anything, I'm not confined. But at the same token, it's like, there is nothing religious about art. There has to be some connection to some narrative somehow, one way or another. And like rejection of narrative at this point in history is pretty cheap, and it's not that rebellious. You're just rebelling against fucking plumbers and Uber drivers who are not in this huge fucking art market anyway. The people buying up this shit are different fucking assholes and Russian oligarchs who, are just buying it for that cultural designation to launder their spirit with this kind of faux taste. So fuck modern art, frankly, and Hitler was right. Would I prefer to receive a Canadian slap or a Cossack slap? Naturally, I would prefer to receive the effete Canadian slap. I wouldn't even know if I even fucking received that slap. Okay, that's the kind of a slap I want, is a Canadian slap. It would be like some sort of an ASMR whisper in my ear. This fucking Canadian slap. And did you have any other artistic endeavors besides YouTube? And how's this medium shaping the meta part of your message? Well, the one thing that this YouTube channel has shaped is this kind of a persona that really didn't exist before. And I thought, I need to be fucking more energetic on the air. And I've literally met people at this point who seem to like me much more as a persona than they do the real me. Like people who have watched like hours, presumably, of my videos, or so they profess. And yet, in interaction with me, they're seem much less excited to actually interact with me in real life for hours. I have encountered it. So there was kind of a weird thing where you're like suddenly naturally interacting as a persona, and the same thing like happened in my stream as well. I started out the stream and I thought, well, this is going to be a place where I'm just going to be kind of more of myself, I guess, and it's just going to be a place to discuss life, and there's not going to be the same fucking hamster wheel pressures I feel to like make a video about Peterson or Molyneux or whatever the fuck. And once I started the stream, it evolved into a bizarre like children's show with myself as Mr. Rogers, and like Mr. Robbins is like one of the puppets or like some sort of a characters, and Mr. Rogers like magical fucking Trainland or whatever the fuck that was called. I mean, this was before me, Mr. Rogers, but he did make a cultural impression on me, I guess. Yeah, and now there's that kind of shit going on. And then I invited a friend of mine to be a part of the stream, and this was on Patreon. And I've noticed that when I told him that about this children's show character aspect of the stream, and then when we interacted, I interacted with Robbins, Mr. Robbins, in the way I usually did in the stream, in a goofy way. And then when I spoke to my friend, who was a guest, I kind of had to adjust more to a normal way of speaking or some sort of a compromise. And even there, like I felt this to be a great burden. And I'm not sure I'm gonna have people on the stream anymore who can't enter into the world of this persona. So even there, it like extends its weird fucking tentacles. But I don't have any other endeavors. I did have a blog after which this channel is named. This is the original Google account that hosted the blog, and where I have uploaded my first video on here. And I recently wanted to post some entries from that blog on Patreon, archived entries. And what I've discovered is that there's so kind of, I was a really religious Buddhist at the time, and there's like a lot of self-satisfaction, a lot of like almost religious chauvinism. I mean, it's so cute and it's Buddhist, and but it's just fuck. Now my fucking stomach is making noise. It's because of this vape juice I got. It tastes. It has a decent taste, but the chemicals in there have been causing me fucking indigestion and discomfort for a long time. So anyway, fuck it. Those were the questions from Danilo, and let's see what else we have here. Patron Thusidode has always been a very prolific participant in the Patreon Q&A, and here he comes in with a new batch of questions. So the first one is, if you were to find out that Megan Fox thinks that Crimea ought to be a part of Ukraine, would you still find her attractive? And would she still be the recipient of your Broad of Choice awards? Once again, I've never uttered this kind of a crude combination of words, Broad of Choice awards. Uh, it was an invention of Thucydides that he attributed to me. My friends, in 2014, there was a democratic referendum in the Crimean Peninsula. You know how folks say that Jerusalem is the eternal capital of Israel? Motherfucker. Guess what's the eternal peninsula of Russia? Yeah, it is Crimea. And so at this point, clearly with that connection in mind, I think now here going into 2019, pretending that Crimea is a part of Ukraine is just an equivalent to denying the Holocaust. And in this vein, to continue with this line of argument, would I date a very attractive woman who denied the Holocaust? The answer is, motherfucker, is yes. Because listen, my friends, listen, it's not that bad. A lot of women are really ditzy when it comes to politics and history and shit. They're like, whatever, fucking smiling, sending fucking smiley faces and shit all the time, and taking care of their appearance or some shit, or watching different videos. I don't know what they do, but they don't really. They're very ditzy when it comes to politics. So after some passionate lovemaking, we can talk about the numbers. There's evidence, clear evidence that I could give to her. Anyway, in an alternative universe where Megan Fox would have an opinion on Crimea, I think in that universe, so many things would be different. Like in that universe, maybe it would actually be a pertinent question. Maybe there would actually, in that alternative world where she really would have an opinion about Crimea, in that world, maybe we could, hook up. I don't fucking know, man. It really is entering the Twilight Zone, but okay, well, I think I said what I could on that one. So the next one is nerds seem to nerds seem to have been gaining in importance in the last decade or so, to the point they are now widely accepted, some becoming respected public figures, while others reportedly being successful at reproducing. Do you see this as a threat to our civilization and humanity at large? How would you weigh this issue against climate change, for example? Would deportation to Siberia constitute a possible solution, in your opinion? The thing about nerds is, as annoying as they are, they're still kind of socially awkward, and you know that even though they do get laid, relative to their resources and hypothetical social status, they're still profoundly underlaid. I mean, like, Elon Musk found this, like, second-rate actress that's only been known for, like, having a messy divorce with John Depp, and he was, like, hanging out with her for a long time. And then with his wife, I mean, he just seems to be, he wears, like, goofy leather jackets and wears all black, a kind of a typical nerd thing you could see from Neil deGrasse Tyson to, like, Sargon of Akkad. Like, wearing all black is a big thing with these guys. And yeah, I mean, so it's really hard to resent. I'm not even gonna go into the Neil deGrasse thing right now, but it really is overall hard to resent them for those reasons. Like, their lives are still kind of like, there is still a sense of impotence or cuckness around them, and so it's hard to hate them. And unless nerds are preoccupied with masculinity, like, that's when they become really dangerous. Like, stupid nerds preoccupied with masculinity are basically incels. They're the scum of the earth. But I don't think it's fair to paint all nerds with this broad brush. So no, I don't feel threatened to them. Who I hate are the kind of yuppies, kind of people who are very mentally healthy and yet have good education and earn a lot of money. If money weren't an issue and you could buy another cargo van, which model would you pick? why not break new grounds and turn this channel into an ASMR van review channel? Well, my friend, you might not know that much about cargo vans, but there really aren't that many like fucking models out there. there wouldn't be like much of a review of these cargo vans. At least in North America, there must be like, yeah, there's like the Chevrolet one, which is basically a mechanical equivalent of the GMC Savannah that I drive. So it's basically the same car under a different brand. And then there's like Ford Express. So these are the three that you mostly see. Like there's really these, and two of them are just the same car. So these are the ones you see all the time. And let's see. Well, I think there's a Nissan model as well. If you really want to go fancy, you see that once in a while, a Nissan cargo van. And well, there's a fancy Mercedes one that you hardly ever see, but it is out there. And I've heard that Beyonce, when she was taken, when she gave birth and was taken from the hospital, she, went into this fucking fancy Mercedes van. But I love my van, and I just, it almost has 300,000 miles right now. And at this point, I don't know that I want another car until I actually can get something that I want. And I just want to fucking repair and like this piece of shit until it gets 400,000 miles. We gotta get to that point. But honestly, my dream car is like a shitty, decrepit Escalade, Cadillac Escalade, because it's almost like it's a very pointless and stupid car, like a tank, kind of like a cargo van, really, an overpriced cargo van, and I just fucking love it. I've listened to a lot of rap on it, but I want a shitty one that nobody would want to steal. And would be a reflection. I would just be driving around in this old piece of shit casket. But from what I understand, it does go from 0 to 60 pretty quickly. And I also like love the idea of driving around in a heavy car and being above most other people. Because if somebody rams into them, into me, it's like 2 tons, a 2 ton entity, and you're gonna pay, motherfucker. You and little Bobby, your fucking kid, you're gonna have to take some of these fucking family stickers off the back of your car when you ram into my ass. You piece of shit. I hope you die. Anyway, it's nice to drive a heavy car, man. Alright, and it's just what I'm saying. People drive like assholes out there. You really have to be careful. Patron Raymond asks if I will ever have kids and if dire climate change predictions should affect people's choices. It's highly unlikely, realistically speaking, that I will have kids. The only possibility in which I would have kids is if I had a lot of money. If I had a lot of money and I could shelter myself from responsibilities and like hiring a nanny, or alternatively, like the woman would have to bear all of the burden of child rearing, or like a lot of it. I think that it would be dangerous for me to have kids because I'm very zoned out, like I'm barely able to function as is, with really no responsibilities, kind of living in my mother's house. I'm a lot of time on melancholy and zoned out and can't even make a proper YouTube video for my stupid channel. So I really am kind of profoundly dysfunctional at living life as is. And I'm also a selfish person and a narcissist, but this narcissism doesn't really hurt anybody profoundly, as far as I know. Doesn't make anybody bleed, because I just sit alone in my room. Like, I just make self-deprecating jokes that are total lies, because usually that self-deprecation doesn't, in fact, reflect what's really going on in my narcissistic head in regards to my own opinion of myself. But yeah, it's just kind of like this kind of goofy thing of like maybe not paying back people right away. Even that hasn't happened in a long time. But and yeah, like shit like that. Like maybe whatever, like forgetting birthdays or like forgetting everybody's names. However, if I had kids, I mean, I would really think that there would be a dangerous threshold where this kind of narcissism and my inability to function in life normally would make a kind of a dangerous combination. Not as far as like maybe being curt or like psychologically neglectful, or just inability to tolerate loud sounds continuously. Like I don't see myself as the kind of a dad that like goes up in the middle of the night to like change diapers or whatever. I mean, literally interruptions in sleep make me profoundly like irritated and insane, and so it really does scare me. Uh, the possibility of having kids in that sense, and unless I would be insulated from them by wealth and I don't know, fucking childcare and all that stuff. I mean, it really is a scary aspect of my personality, and I wouldn't want to. I'm not really crazy about kids anyway. I think they're cute. I don't hate kids, but once they start making a lot of noise, it really starts to just be like, that's the thought. Like, how can such a small organism make so much noise? Like, literally, at no other point in human life do we make so much noise, and that's not a good thought. That's not a good thought. Patron Mr. Robbins had a question about my predictions in 2019. So he had quite a variety of possibilities. Will Jordan Peterson stick with his all beef diet? Will it be sustainable long term? What will be the chronic health effects? Will Ivan find his boyfriend free girl in 2019? What will be the fate of Ukraine? Who will be the next creepy dude to receive the public guillotine of Me Too? Will we finally be ready for Trans Santa in 2019? Will Tony Randall have even another child or die? I don't know who he is, but I guess even another child makes me wish for his death. Just kidding, I'm just joking around. Will you formally join a social political cause or movement in 2019? Highly unlikely. I would have to really move up the hierarchy of needs in order to really believe in something, you know. Like, if I make more on Patreon, I will be ready to for social political causes. Until then, not so much. If so, which seems most appealing? Proud Boys, MACTOW, Antifa, Me Too, male feminism, vegan, Peterson, Old Beef Boys. Peterson's Old Beef Boys sounds very dirty. This is quite a few choices here. I mean, out of these, I would have to maybe like be a MGTOW or like a MGTOW and Antifa simultaneously. Antifa going their own way. Like, I could be Antifa against Zizek, like against his like I just my whole Antifa movement would be for him to like speak like a human being without all these mouth sounds. That could be a movement. Like, unfortunately, out of these all potentialities, my one prediction would be like the deterioration of the situation in Ukraine. I mean, Ukraine has become a geopolitical battlefield between the West and Russia, and yet the West kind of forgot about it, and that's a horrible place to be. Turned out to be a very horrible place to be. I mean, the situation there is really, really kind of sad in Ukraine. It's really, really sad what's going on in there, but I assume nobody really cares about that. Aside from that, I mean, I hope my channel grows, and I hope I can move on from like shitty driving jobs. I just kind of took them up after emerging from my long depression, but that was now back in 2016, and it was just easy jobs to do, easy on my pathetic psyche, but at this point, long enough time has passed for me to actually perhaps attempt at having a job where I don't get paid after all the expenses, like minimum wage or whatever, something along those lines. And finally, patron Ye Na, that's literally the name of the patron, Ye Na. Anyway, okay, well, he asks, hey, bro, secret daddy, some Buddhist or other meditation tutorial vids or insight to help detox from all the info and madness out there, if you're into that. I've never been a heavy meditator. When I was a Buddhist, I was so consumed in my own uh, manic missions and my own belief in my destiny, in kind of spiritual experiences cycling through me because I was insane. So it was quite the opposite of actually meditating. So I can't have any overall meditation advice at all. If you're interested in looking for kind of a center just from my familiarities with different branches of Buddhism in the West. Like the Insight Meditation Society takes a lot of Buddhist teachings, but they're secular. They secularize everything. They use teachings without the religious baggage. But it is a kind of like a yuppie, seemingly a place, kind of a upper middle class kind of a vibe to it that I get. I've never actually gone there, but that's the one secular place. I'm kind of skeptical about these meditation apps. I'm sure meditating, quote unquote, for 15 minutes is better than nothing, but if you think about it as like an exercise regimen, doing 15 minutes of exercise a day is better than nothing. It could be beneficial, but I kind of resent these meditation apps and all that shit. I really think that this is one of those things that you're really trying to make your brain function in a different way, and people have been doing it for thousands of years, and there is something to be learned from it. Uh, and since there are more secular places available, I think that that's the type of activity where it's good to actually have hands-on human-to-human experience rather than just an app or something. That's my personal bias, but then again, as I've said, I've never been a great meditator, so hopefully somebody at all has watched this video and it has been useful in whatever way. I'm not sure, but yeah, I've actually purchased a $220 Ionizer. It blasts out negative ions into the air, and it's supposed to aid with depression. Interestingly enough, there are kind of different scientific studies and evidence that it does, and not ones that have been published. Although in many cases the sample, kind of the study groups are small. But anyway, there's consistent evidence of what quality this evidence is, that this ionizer, that negative ions have a positive effect on mood. And, I'm gonna receive it, and once I do, and I have it for a few weeks, I will make a review on this channel. But yeah, it has been just kind of been wasting a lot of time now. Um, Wasting a lot of time, kind of here in my bed. Um, all right, my friends. I don't know. I didn't promise a great video here, and since nobody's watching, but thank you for the patrons. Thank you for the viewers and subscribers. Thank you, and hope you have happy holidays and a happy new year.